recorded the episode with Victoria Clapham back in October of last year, but I really wanted to save it for March when we celebrate International Women's Day. This conversation is truly a celebration of all that we have achieved in the financial services industry over the years, trying to fill that gender gap. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot more than can be done, but it's just always so refreshing to come across someone like Victoria, who never went to university, started her career literally at reception, but eventually rose through the ranks and founded her own financial advisory business. Today, Victoria is committed to not only making the industry more accessible to the next generation, but also teaching them the basics of financial planning. Together, we reflect on the importance of role models, how to grow your professional network, and why the wealth management industry is so well suited to women.
Changing things from the bottom up and having these girls believe that, yes, I can do that and that is achievable and I am the right person for the job. And I'm so passionate about that, as we mentioned, because my background is different and I didn't go to university. I think that hopefully that instills a bit of an attitude amongst the girls that they can do that too.
Well, hi, Victoria. It's so nice to have you. We've been having a little chat, I must admit, before we even started this recording and having a fantastic time. So welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be on your podcast.
Wonderful. Well, what people may not know about us and how we met was that we both like to do a little bit of volunteering, and we'll get into that. But that's actually, I always keep saying that's a fantastic way to grow your network. And that's exactly how I met you. And from the moment when I met you, I knew that you were someone that I would want to be staying in touch with. And actually, luckily, we managed to make it happen. And you are now here as a guest. So why don't we start with the beginnings? We always like to do that on the show. You are now a successful wealth manager, co-founder, running your own business as a wealth advisor. But how did you start? What was your journey like?
My journey, so a little bit different to the norm, I would say. Most people in my industry tend to get their job by joining, doing the degree and joining a graduate scheme. But I actually left school after A levels. I was of a generation where everybody was encouraged to go to university, whether it was right for them or not, really. And to be honest, I found it so stressful, and I think I was a bit lost, really. So I applied for roles in industries that I thought would make a really interesting career, and found myself on reception of a local investment management firm in Lincolnshire. And I just loved it, sort of being the first point of contact for clients and answering the phone and greeting them and typing letters about the transactions on their portfolios. I just thought the whole thing was fascinating. So I think on top of that, I'm ambitious, really. So that, together with support from management, meant that I did my exams in my spare time and sort of worked my way up to become a fully fledged investment manager. And then moved to London at the tender age of 24, onto the team I actually still work with today, which was great. So we worked together as a team at a couple of different larger investment management houses before setting up Manor-Bridge Investment Management nearly 5 years ago. 5 years in December, actually.
Well, that's a very nice milestone. I hope I'm invited to the 10-year anniversary party. But look, I mean, there's not many, especially women, who start a reception and then, make it all the way up to being qualified financial advisors. And I think it was interesting. I admitted I was stalking you on LinkedIn, and I was looking at some of your posts, and I did see that clipping from a newspaper that I think is still in your parents' house, which shows that, at 22, you're already qualified. And that's, most people haven't even graduated, finished their studies. So how did that happen?
That's it. I think I sort of got, because I skipped that university piece, I kind of got a head start, really. And, I think that taught me so many things when it comes to organisation and prioritising and, very much starting at the bottom of the ladder and working up gradually. I think it's been hugely beneficial for my career and also beneficial for how I now manage a business with my colleagues. So, that article though, we were just giggling. My hair is.
Oh, well, that was a long time ago. We've
It
all
was
had
a long time ago.
chance to improve our. Well, I don't know if it's improved, but yeah, certainly evolved since then. And I think it's not just the hair that's changed. A lot of, I suppose, how you come across, and you've gained a lot of experience since then. So you started there, and I've always wondered, and I remember us chatting earlier. I'm sure you make it sound very easy and smooth, that transition, and you gradually working hard and getting to the position where you are today. But were there any perhaps difficulties or challenges along the way, and people who were probably less supportive than the team that you're currently with?
Yes. Yeah. I think being a woman in finance definitely has its challenges. I'm sure you've felt the same. And it is very male dominated and sort of always has been. One company I worked at, and it's not around anymore, but it had one of the worst gender pay gaps in the industry. You know, when they started disclosing these figures as part of reporting requirements, and management at the time said, well, you know, it's because we have many more females in administration roles. And they sort of used that as their reasoning rather than taking a step back and thinking, well, isn't that the issue? Isn't that the problem? You know, where are the opportunities for these women to progress into management? And, you know, things are changing. But yeah, there are tricky sort of events from time to time. And I was a little bit disheartened. I don't know if you saw the Citywire Alpha Female report that was out
I haven't
recently.
seen that, no.
It was basically saying the industry has failed to make any progress when it comes to diversity in the past year, which is a real shame. And, you know, you can get quite despondent about it. But it's a slow process.
Yes, and certainly one that you're trying to reverse engineer almost. And I did see it again that you were, no, it wasn't that long ago. You went and visited your own school, and you had a mission when you did that.
Absolutely. I think that's it. And, you know, one of the many reasons we created Manor Bridge is I'm a director and we're a small company. So we can sort of set that culture from the outset and sort of change things. And going to my old school was brilliant. It was really, it's funny, it's sort of so much smaller than you remember. And it was great. I did a presentation as part of GAIN, the charity that you and I volunteer for, and talked about having a career in finance and what it looks like, and try to inspire a couple of girls along the way to think, oh, actually, I could do that.
Mm-hmm. And then how did that, you know, obviously there's a reason why you do this. This is, I know you are quite passionate about it. And what's your motivation, or how does that make you feel like after every visit that you do to a school, every presentation?
I think it is trying to inspire sort of the next generation. You know, diversity is one thing from the top down, you know, management saying the right things and trying to make a change. But I'm sure, well, I know what the founders of GAIN have found. It's, you know, the sort of changing things from the bottom up and having these girls believe that, yes, I can do that and that is achievable and I am the right person for the job. And I'm so passionate about that, as we mentioned, because my background is different and I didn't go to university. I think that hopefully that instills a bit of an attitude amongst the girls that they can do that too.
Yeah, and that's the importance of role models, and I suppose seeing somebody that you can relate to and finding out that there's many different options and many different ways into it.
Absolutely.
But yes, kind of rewinding back, and I wanted to ask you about this because you are not just working for a company, you are actually running the business, and you are a co-founder, partner within that. And you know, how did that happen? It always feels like it's a big challenge to kind of let go and start your own business, be it with others or on your own. And how did you, I know that you're always very careful about risks and risk management in your personal life as well. So how did you make that decision?
It was Probably sort of a long time coming, partly as a result, I think, of changes in the industry itself, and partly the firms we were working with in at the time. I think starting a business really gave us the opportunity to look after clients the way we wanted to, and create a company running in the way we want it to run. And there's sort of been this trend in wealth management of consolidation where the smaller firms are being acquired by the larger ones, and larger firms tend to have more prescriptive offering for their clients, often including model portfolios. And whereas we really pride ourselves on offering something truly bespoke to our clients with a personal relationship, and that's something the larger firms find it more difficult to achieve. Yeah, we started the company by partnering with Raymond James, so we're actually a branch under their umbrella, and it means that we're regulated through them. They provide our IT system, settlement, dealing, all of those sort of parts of the business, so that we can actually concentrate on the day-to-day job of looking after our clients, and in turn our clients can have peace of mind that their assets are secure.
And you didn't mention the importance of relationships, but I'm sure when you showed up at, I don't know, the tender age of 18 or 19 on reception, you didn't have any such relationships or connections. You had to build those yourself. So how does one go about building those relationships and winning the trust of clients?
I think winning the trust of clients, I think, is a lot about being your authentic self. I do put a lot of my success down to, I'm a very sort of what you see is what you get sort of person. When I did a school talk a little while ago, one of the teachers came up to me afterwards, and she said, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm so pleased you came to see us and talk to our students today because you're normal. And I think what she was saying was right. I think that I'm somebody my clients can relate to and ask the questions, without feeling silly, because there's no judgment there. And I think that sort of gains a lot of trust as well. But yes, and as you said on the networking piece, I think networking is incredibly powerful to build your client base and the networks, and even contacts for your clients in different areas like solicitors or accountants. And I met you via networking, which I'm really grateful for. It's such a useful tool, and I do lots of networking events over the year, be it sort of women in business or City Women Network, or entrepreneurs, and you get to meet such a wide range of people. And that's brilliant for potential clients, and building your client base there,
and probably building your own brand and just getting that working on that. And by the way, congratulations! I know that you've been nominated again for an award. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so exciting. Investment Week, industry magazine, run awards every year recognising women in the industry, which is just wonderful. And I'm so proud to have been nominated this year for Wealth Manager of the Year and Investment Manager of the Year, which it's super exciting. The awards, I think, are later in November, so I'll be keeping all my fingers crossed.
Keeping your fingers crossed. And this is not your first nomination. We were chatting about this earlier.
My husband and I were having a joke. I have been nominated a couple of times before. Again, very proud, but we were joking that perhaps I'm a little bit like Leonardo DiCaprio, who was nominated for the Oscars like
many times,
many times, and never won. So,
well, hopefully it will take fewer years for you to win, because I know you deserve it. And after all, as we always say, especially with these awards, everyone who's nominated is a winner, because the more that we support each other and spread the word about the good work that we're doing, the better.
Absolutely. It's so important. And, it's great to sort of read the list of nominees as well and think, look at all of these amazing women in the industry, they are there and they're working hard.
Yeah, and you also have very good support from your team as well, because we've talked a lot about the importance of women supporting each other, but you actually work with men, and they've been quite supportive. And I think it's important to give that recognition to
Oh,
mentors and allies, and the fact that many men have been very helpful along the ways of our careers.
absolutely. Yeah, very much so. We're sort of at Manor Bridge, we're 50-50 male and female, but there's only four of us, so
Hmm.
easier to achieve. But yeah, absolutely. They've always been, my champions for my career, really. They're yeah,
Yeah.
we're lucky to have a good team.
And again, going back to that important work that you do, which is advising clients, I spoke with another guest on the show who was talking about fintech, but also about the gap in the financial literacy that we often
Mm.
find with women. So, from your experience working with different clients, would you say that that's still a problem, and how can one go about solving it?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree with your other guests. There is such a knowledge gap when it comes to personal finance and investing, and I personally think it's terrible we don't learn these things at school. And
Hmm.
and I do think perhaps it's something I can help with in a small way by sort of sharing some of my knowledge. So I've done a number of lunch and learn sessions where I go into companies at lunch, obviously,
Hmm.
and speak about the basics of budgeting, personal finance, and investing, and hopefully help people, and especially women, feel more empowered and confident when it comes to their money. Um, I've got a number of really, really successful friends who have their own businesses, but they don't know the first thing
Hmm.
about
Indeed.
pensions or, making their money work for them. And, back to sort of the gender pay gap's one issue, but then when we earn the money, the problem comes, well, it's compounded if we don't then invest it. The gap at retirement is hundreds of thousands of pounds. It really does make a difference.
Mm. Yes. So I actually didn't know that you do these lunch and learn sessions. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So these are not obviously companies in the city that focus on finance.
Mm.
It could be any industry, and in fact they are open to anyone, not just women,
Mm.
as you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did one at a recruitment agency
Hmm.
and one at a sort of marketing agency. And yeah, I think sort of the creative sector as well, inherently, they're experts in creativity and branding and marketing, sort
Hmm.
of personal finances takes a back seat, partly because it's not very interesting, but at least
Oh,
I think it's interesting.
I think you would make it a lot more interesting for your guests.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was sitting here listening to that, and I do feel that that's probably connected to some of the work that you do now with the different schools and trying to get
Mm.
again younger students, women, or whoever it may be, to just think a little bit, not just about a career in finance, but actually, even if they find that that's not for them, just focusing and understanding that's an important part of life. And it needs a little bit of focus even when you're young. Is that something that you talk about often, or?
Definitely, definitely. The charity we met through GAIN, which is Girls Are Investors, um, aim to sort of demystify the industry and help young women get into investments. I've done school talks and mentoring, online panels, careers days with them, and it's absolutely incredible to see the tangible difference they're making. And go to these events and see their interns, and so many of them each year achieve roles in investment management. And I think the work that they do is just absolutely brilliant.
Mm. And I was wondering, so if someone's sitting out there listening, because this is a question that I do get a lot, especially if you happen not to work in financial services, and I want to make it very clear that we're not giving recommendations or any specific. We're not going to go and talk about products or things, but how does one start if you have somebody who's never done it before and they really want to take control of their finances? How do they even go about finding a financial advisor, or what's the, I suppose, the role of the financial advisor in that process?
It's really tricky. I think, if you Google investment management, you can feel really, really lost. There's sort of a sliding scale between the cheapest option and doing it yourself, and then the most expensive option and hiring somebody like me full time to run your money. An amazing resource, I think, is Martin Lewis's Money Saving Expert. He has a list of and then compares savings accounts, updates it with the current rates all the time, and then also DIY investment portfolios, but also what we call robo investing, where it's sort of all done for you. You pick a risk level and perhaps you'd like a more ethical exposure, and it's invested for you in a really diversified portfolio. So that's a great place to start sometimes and see what's available.
And certainly lots of pros and cons to each of those
Yeah.
approaches. So it's important when you're doing your research to consider all of those and to get the proper advice. But yes, are you in any shape or form feeling threatened by artificial intelligence and that maybe robots will be making those recommendations? Or do you think there's something else out there that, makes your role quite indispensable?
Oh, good question. I think I'm not scared of the robo investors and AI. I think there's sort of something for every need. At that level of the market, the service is very cheap, but I think there's always a demand for personal service and having somebody on the end of the phone who can, hold your hand when times get tricky, which they do from time to time, and, give you the advice to hold on and stay in there and, not to worry. I think lots of people appreciate a professional advisor that they can speak to. Not everybody, and the sort of other end of the spectrum, and these ready packaged portfolios do work for some, but I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit just like any other service, really. You can go and get something ready made, or you can get it tailored, and there's customers for each of those services. But yes, because you did mention times getting challenging, and I think you were referring to markets, but I'm sure that in your career there were also some challenging times, and probably around difficult times in the markets, careers. So what was probably the biggest challenge that you had to overcome ever since you started your journey in finance?
If I do think about the pandemic and on a personal level, I very much love working with people. I get energy from working with people. But personally, I found the pandemic really tricky with that sort of little personal contact, because that's what I thrive on and love the most.
Well, this is exactly what I was going to ask you. So what is it that really motivates you, and what do you jump out of bed for, and what's the part of your job that really made you realize that you've found your calling and that's it?
I think I love what I do for two reasons, really. I think it sort of fits my personality type, that I love dealing with people first and foremost, and being an investment manager, you develop really close relationships and get to know people on a really personal level. And the second part I love is sort of a problem solving piece, getting to know that individual, what it is they want to achieve from their money, their risk tolerance, everything about them, and then catering a portfolio for their needs and that problem solving around that, be it making it tax efficient, or perhaps they want an income. And I think the two sides of the role really, really suit me, and I really thrive in that environment.
If anyone was considering maybe switching their career or even starting in that industry, what are the skills that they should have, or where do they start? What would you recommend?
Yes, there's some amazing references and things on the CISI website, is where you organise your training and exams and things, and they've got some great flowcharts of what qualifications you need to get started. Actually, my assistant Ella joined us from doing a marketing and business degree, and she's now just achieved her first investment management exam, and it's amazing to think where she could go with her career. So that's a really good source to start from.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important to talk about because, yeah, there's always a time when you come at that kind of crossroad. Maybe you want to change your career, maybe you want to
Mm.
start. And in some cases, we do have returners as well coming back. And it sounds like your industry is very accessible and open to those who might be willing to, do the qualifications and work hard.
I think so. And I think it really suits women personality
Hmm.
wise. We're empathetic and hopefully relatable. And there's sort of, and I say this during the game presentations, there's a job for everybody in finance, and whatever personality type you have, be it more introverted and analytical or, thriving from the personal side, as there is something for everybody.
Mm. And I suppose the question that I always like to ask at the end is what could people take away from your story? And is there something that you perhaps wish you knew when you were starting, or anything that you'd like to pass on to those who are listening, or maybe even the next generation coming up?
I guess my takeaway would be that there just isn't one route into the industry. There are lots of different ways to go about it, and an investment manager doesn't have to look a particular way. I think I wish I had known that actually it's
Mm-hmm.
our differences that can help us succeed.
I must admit that this episode wasn't the easiest to produce and release. It just happened to be one of those weeks when nothing seemed to go as planned. And this is exactly what made me think again about why I'm doing this and what's the purpose of the show and all the effort that goes into it. And then I listened to my interview with Victoria and I was instantly reminded of why I started this. Because these are exactly the type of stories that I wanted to share. A conversation that really digs deep into who this person is and what they stand for. And with Victoria, it was just so easy to capture her spirit and her relentless passion for helping those coming after her. So, what can we learn from her story? I, for one, hope that it will serve as inspiration to those starting out, that it's not just about what university you go to or what degree you get, but much more about the work that you're willing to put in. It's also a good reminder for the rest of us of the important role that our male allies have to play in supporting our careers. We often think of the financial services industry as very heavily male dominated, and it certainly is. But I find it hard not to agree with Victoria that wealth management in particular could be very well suited to women. So, for anyone looking to requalify, return to work after a break, or perhaps make that career change, this is a viable path to consider. And finally, if you're one of those lucky ones who made it, and please use your own definition of what made it means, you have a responsibility to act as a role model to the next generation and make sure that you're leaving this industry more accessible than you found it. Next time on the show, we have a good friend of mine, Galena Stavrova, who talks openly about the challenges of motherhood and how her own journey inspired her to set up an Amazon selling business right from her kitchen table. Thank you so much for listening to The Sound of Breaking Glass. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow us on your podcast app, tell a friend about us, or check us out on LinkedIn. New episodes are released every other Wednesday. It's been a real pleasure. Till next time.